This Sikha of Shabbos Parshas Naso, Yud Beis Sivan of Tavshin Nun Aleph, can be found in Sefer HaSichas Tavshin Nun Aleph on page 583. This Farbrengen, or rather Farbrengens, of that Shabbos was something very, very unique in that the Rebbe first Farbrenged in one Farbrengen on that Shabbos afternoon, like a regular Shabbos, and then the Rebbe came out for a surprise Farbrengen a second time on that same Shabbos. And as it actually specifies in the footnote itself over here, that before Shkia, there was an additional surprise Farbrengen in which the Rebbe washed his holy hands for the Seudah, said to sing B'nei Heichala, and after the first Sikha, said to sing the 10 Nigunim of the Rabbeim, Rabbi Seinu Nisienu. Later on in the Sikha will be explained what's meant by 10 Nigunim in one of the footnotes later. At the end of this second Farbrengen, after benching Ma'ariv and Havdalah, the Rebbe distributed Kois Shel Bracha. So this Sikha, the way the Rebbe was Magiyah, the way the Rebbe edited the Sikha, is a combination of these two Farbrengens put together. And the Rebbe starts off the Farbrengen by saying that the connection of this Shabbos Kodesh to the time of Zman Matan Torah Seinu is emphasized in a number of different things. First and foremost, being the Shabbos, the first Shabbos after Zman Matan Torah, this is the Shabbos, and when we have the Ilui, the greatness and the perfection, the culmination, the Vayechulu, the completion of Zman Matan Torah. Especially that the Shabbos of after Zman Matan Torah is within the Yemei HaTashlumin, the 7 days which we could make up for the Karbonis of Shavuos is called the Shivas Yemei Tashlumin. But Tashlumin is also from the word Shleimus. In other words, it brings a certain Shleimus, of certain perfection to the time of Matan Torah. The Rebbe says this is even more emphasized, the Kviyus of this particular year, when Zman Matan Torah Seinu fell out on the first day of the week, on Sunday, and therefore the next Shabbos, the following Shabbos, is Yud Beis Sivan, which is the end of the Yemei HaTashlumin. Now we know that when something, by the end of something, we say everything goes following the ending of it. So in other words, this is the ending of the Yemei HaTashlumin, and this is falling out on Shabbos. Therefore, this causes the ultimate perfection and shleimus of Zman Matan Torah and of all of the Yemei HaTashlumin. The Rebbe says this is even more emphasized. We see this clearly emphasized also in the Parshas HaShavua and Parshas Naso. Parshas Naso is Naso Yesroish, which literally is referring to counting of the heads. But Naso Yesroish also means lifting the head. In other words, the main idea of lifting the head in Avodas Adam, how does one raise his head? This is through Limud HaTorah, through learning Torah. And not only that, but through lifting the head, this lifts the whole body, all the way down to the feet. In other words, what this means in Avodas Hashem is that even as you're involved in the feet, meaning the lowest parts, the way you're involved in the world, whether it's by doing mitzvahs with things of the world, or even dealing with completely mundane things through Kol Ma'asechel L'Shem Shamayim, by doing everything for the sake of Hashem, and B'chol D'rochecha De'eyu, to getting to know Hashem in every single thing that you do, all of these things are also being done in a way of Naso. They are also being done in a way of Isnasus, of being lifted up. Says the Rebbe, this is also hinted in the Diuk Halosha when the Pasuk says, Nasoi eseroish b'nei Gershon, you should be counting and lifting the heads of b'nei Gershon. Then it says, Gam heim, also them. What does it mean, also them? Just like Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded to count and to lift the b'nei Kahas, so too the b'nei Gershon. So what does this mean? B'nei Kahas are the ones that counted the Orim. So that's the idea. The Orim carries the Luchas, which is the idea of Limud HaTorah. So just like the Bnei Kahas are lifted up, this is Bnei Gershon are also being lifted up, those that carry the Yeriyos and the other parts of the Mishkan, which in other words, this is like more dealing with the world and refining the world. So just like Bnei Kahas, which is more the idea of Torah is being lifted up, but this also causes an aliyah by all of those that are dealing with other aspects of the world. So this emphasizes even more the connection between Matan. This idea is also emphasized. We see this also in connection to Matan. The connection to Matan Torah, looking at the beginning of learning of Pirkei Avos, which again we start on the Shabbos after Matan Torah. That is, In addition to the fact that we're learning Masechta Avos in the Shabbos between Pesach and Shavuos, which is the time of the preparation for Matan Torah, we now start learning Masechta Avos again in the Shabbos that's after Zman Matan Torah. In other words, this is as a result already, coming from Matan Torah, we now learn Moshe Kibul Torah Misinayu Misara Lo Yeshua, all the way till the instructions that they give us, Va'amidu Talmidim Harbe, to establish even more Talmidim. This emphasizes the idea of the Torah being given and being learned by each and every Yid all the way till the end of all generations. And in the continuation of the Perek and all the way towards the end of the Perek, we have emphasized also the idea of how we receive the Torah and we learn the Torah, but how it also impacts our dealings with the world, because we have in the beginning of the Perek, we have the idea of al shloisha dvarim or oila moimid, so it's also our Torah is going to impact the world on what the world stands. The Torah stands on Torah, avodah, and gmilus chasadim. And so too, towards the end of the Perek, we have al shloisha dvarim oilam kayim, that the world endures, the world lasts, could exist based on three things: al adin v'alo emes, judgment, truth, and peace. From all of this, we understand that from the time of Matan Torah and the Yemei Tashlumin, all the way to its conclusion, its culmination in Shabbos Parshas Naso, which then is being renewed, the whole idea of Matan Torah like the first time, but in a way of a Haisaf, in addition, every single year. So obviously now, from all of this, a Yid, every single Yid, needs to have a whole new renewal and addition in all matters of Torah and mitzvahs, in all three areas of Torah, Avodah, and Gmilas Chasadim, upon which the world stands. And as this is hinted in the Lashon HaKosav, in the words of the Pasuk, where it speaks about Matan Torah, it says, B'chodesh HaShlishi. That's what Matan Torah was. That means Shlishi represents that in all three areas of Torah, Avodah, and Gmilas Chasadim, in these three areas, we need to have B'chodesh, meaning a Chiddush. We need to have Ischachos, a whole new renewal. And as a result of that, we also get a Hischachos in the way the world could stand and the world could exist during the time of Matan Torah. As we know, the famous Chazal that tells us that what does the Pasuk mean when it says, Eretz Yora v'Shakata, the earth feared and then calmed down, that first it was afraid and then it calmed down, because Hashem had made a condition with the creation itself that if the Yidden are going to accept the Torah, then the world is going to be able to exist and going to be able to continue. So when we have this Ischachos in Torah, so then the world itself could continue to exist. And the Rebbe continues to explain, Ubira Inyan. On the Pasuk B'chodesh HaShlishi, in the third month, on this day they came to Midbar Sinai. So Rashi explains, why does it say Bayoim Hazeh? It should have said Bayoim Hahu. What does it mean by Yoim Hazeh on this day? It teaches us that Torah also always needs to be new by us as if it was given today. And how does this work? What's the explanation? Because that's the truth, that's the reality, that every single day Torah is being renewed from Hashem himself. As this is emphasized in the nusach of the bracha that we make for the Torah, we say, Noisein HaTorah, Hashem that gives us the Torah in the present tense. And this is similar to, and the Rebbe makes even a Kal V'chomer, it's even more so obviously, to the way we know that the whole creation is really renewed every single day. As we say in davening, Hashem is constantly creating the world. How much more so the renewal in regards to giving the Torah? Because since the world itself is coming from the Torah, the world itself is created through the Torah. As it says, Hashem looks into the Torah and creates the world. So therefore, the first needs to be the renewal in Torah, and through that we have the renewal also in creation. Says the Rebbe, the general ischachos of Matan Torah, this general idea that we have a renewal in Matan Torah for the whole year, happens in the time of Matan Torah, that means in the time of Shavuos. And from this general renewal in the time of Matan Torah, we then have the individual renewal every single day. This is true just like in regards to the renewal of creation that we have on Rosh Hashanah. This is the general ischachos, this is the general renewal for the whole year. But from this general renewal, it then extends also and is renewed more specifically every single day. Says the Rebbe, from this we also understand regarding the ischachos, the renewal of Torah that needs to be and that is by the person. When we say that by the person, Torah should be chadoshim, it should be new to you as if it was given today. That the limud Torah, what does it mean new? Is done with chayis, it's done with enjoyment, with pleasure. Not like as if it was some old proclamation given by the king, but rather it's something new that everyone's running towards it with enthusiasm. So the nesinas koyach, the ability that we are given to have this renewal of chayis and the pleasure, the enjoyment of Torah every single day, we get it from that renewal of chayis and pleasure in Torah that starts off in Zman Matan Torah. Says the Rebbe in Seif Gimel, we need to understand. What is this idea of the special ischachus of Matan Torah that we have in the Shabbos after Matan Torah? The Rebbe explains the question. Based on what we just said, we have two ideas in the renewal of Torah. We said there is a general renewal at the time of Matan Torah, and that is in the time of Zman Matan Torah, that would mean Shavuos. And then we have the more individual hischachus, a renewal that happens every single day, taking the koyach from the general renewal on Zman Matan Torah. But from the fact that we saw already earlier, and explained earlier, that there's something specially emphasized about Matan Torah on the Shabbos after Matan Torah, as we said before in the Parshas Shavuot and the idea of Naso Yisroish, we spoke about in the idea of Pirkei Avos, we start again a whole new Moshe Kibbul Torah Misinai. It seems quite obvious that in the Shabbos after Matan Torah, there's a whole new chidush in the general idea of Matan Torah, which is that's the reason why we're going to read Naso Yisroish. That means we're lifting up the head. Even compared to the shleimus, that perfect renewal that happened in Matan Torah, now there's a whole new elevation. And furthermore, we're starting again Moshe Kibbul Torah Mesinai as if there's a whole new Matan Torah, even compared to that renewal that happened in the time of Matan Torah. So we need to understand, what is this additional chiddush? That is in addition to the general chiddush that we had in Zman Matan Torah, and the individual renewal that we have every single day. What is it that's happening the Shabbos after Matan Torah? What's unique in this Shabbos that because of this we're specifically emphasizing this idea of Matan Torah in a renewed way? Says the Rebbe in Seif Daled, we could explain this by first explaining another aspect in this hischachus of Matan Torah. And that is that there is a concept of chidush, of something new, not only hischachus, not only renewal, but where we find new ideas within Torah itself. What is that? So we know that even though that by Matan Torah, of course, all of Torah was given already, not only the Aseres HaDibros, but also all of Torah Shebiksav, together with all of its interpretation of Torah Shebaal Peh, including even the things that will be revealed and the novel ideas that will come throughout all generations up until our generation. As the Razal tell us, Afilu Masha Talmud Vosik Osid L'Chadash, that everything that's going to be, that even a Talmud Vosik is going to come up with in future generations was all given L'Moshe Mesinai. So how does this work? So we know, because in the time of Matan Torah, what was given was only the general ideas, the rules of the Torah, but from them we now need to take and we need to reveal, we need to bring out all of the many details and the specifics of Torah. Until to such an extent that we say that this detail that a specific Talmud Vosik came up with will be considered his chidush. Talmud Vosik Osid L'Chadash. In other words, it's going to be called by his name, and it needs to be said b'shem Omri, we say it over in his name. Furthermore, the Rebbe says, even more importantly, by Matan Torah was even given the inyanim of Torah that are going to be revealed la'asid lavoi, the Torah of Mashiach that he's going to teach to all the people. Because we know that Matan Torah was a one-time occurrence. It's not going to happen again, Matan Torah. But all of these things were completely and very, very much concealed, to the extent that we could call it la'asid lavoi, Torah Chadasha. In other words, it can't even be revealed through the regular recipients of Torah Talmud Vosik these days. Only the Noisen HaTorah Hashem himself is the one that can reveal it, as it says, Torah Chadasha me'iti teitzi. He's going to come from Hashem himself. So this is completely be'ein aroich to the Torah that's being revealed these days through the recipients of Torah. So much so that the Razal say that the Torah that a person learns these days is like hevel, it's just like ear, compared to the Torah of Mashiach. But, says the Rebbe, through the Chidush and Torah, through the Torah Chadasha me'iti teitzi, what happens now through that is that it also causes a chidush in the world itself. As the pasuk says, the Eibishter says, "Hashamayim achadoshim va'aretz achadosh asher ani yoyse." I'm going to be making a new heaven and a new earth. Ani yoyse, again, Hashem says He's making it, similar to the Torah that comes from Hashem, which means to say that in addition to the hischachos, to just renewal of Torah, both in the general way in Zman Matan Torah and the specific renewal of every single day. Which means that it's the same thing that's happening that we had already a previous time, and now it's just being renewed from its source again, and obviously in a greater way than ever before. But in addition to that, there's also in Yonim of Chidushim, which means that there are new things that were never revealed before. Both in the Torah, it's going to be again, mainly when Mashiach comes, it's going to be Torah Chadashim, brand new things, and so too in the world, Shamayim Chadashim and Eretz Chadashim. To explain further, says the Rebbe in Sefer, Chazal tell us, that you say something in the name of who's the one that originally said it. In other words, you're emphasizing that this is the chidush of the one who said it. Maybe geula la'olam, you bring geula to the world. Why is that? What's the explanation? Says the Rebbe, because when a chidush in Torah is made, that means you're revealing certain secrets of the Torah that were up until now, like in a golus, until this point, they were hidden. And now it's a matter of geula, you're bringing it out within Torah itself, you're revealing, you're taking this idea that was hidden before, that was concealed before, that wasn't understood before. Now you're bringing it out, so you cause the geula. And through geula within Torah, you're also bringing a geula to the world. Now, this is still a geula as we are still in a state of golus. We know, like for example, by Purim, we say on the one hand it was a geula, but still we say we're still servants of Achashverosh. In fact, it's from the story of Purim where we bring the proof from that someone that says something b'shem oimri maybe geula la'olam, because Esther says to the king in the name of Mordechai, and that brought a certain salvation. But what do we say regarding that time? Akati avdi Achashverosh, and now we're still slaves of Achashverosh. That means we're still in Golus. So when we say Dvar b'shem oimri, yes, we're still in Golus, but through this, it's a certain element of geula within Torah, but through this we hasten and we bring closer the geula hamitzvah v'ashlema. And the reason for this is because even the geula within Torah is not yet the perfect geula, because even after the Talmud Vosik, this proper, diligent Talmud of all generations reveals new inyanim of Torah, but there's still many more things in Torah that are still hidden, are still like in Galus. So the real shleimus of geula in Torah will be when all matters of Torah will be revealed through the Eibishter, which Torah Chadash, that its revelation comes specifically from Hashem, Me'iti Teitzei, that means even revealing it is only within the power of Hashem, Me'iti. And that's why the Gili is going to be Betachlis Hashlemas, that's going to be in the greatest way, where there will no longer remain anything concealed, as it says, your teacher will no longer be hidden from you. You'll be able to see your teacher, will be able to see Hashem. Kulam Yedu, I see everyone's going to know Hashem. Says the Rebbe, and through this geula in Torah, this also brings now the geula to the world in the most perfect way. The word oilam, it says maybe geula la'olam. The word oilam is from the word helim, which is the idea of concealment, because there's a concealment of God's, Hashem's energy in the world. That means the godly energy is in a state of galus. So geula la'olam means that it's completely removed and nullified this concealment of the world, of Hashem being concealed in the world, and now the godly energy is revealed in the world. Says the Rebbe V'oid, even more importantly, as we quoted before, Hashemayim HaChadoshim, like a new heaven and a new earth that Hashem says that I'm going to make. Not only a renewal of the previous heaven and earth that was made in the 6 days of creation, like by the time of Matan Torah, where we say that this gave a kiyum to the world that was there before. So the earth now calmed, it feared, and now it calmed down. But rather, what's going to be when Mashiach comes? Shamayim Chadashim, Eretz Chadashim, like a new heaven and a new earth. The main chiddush again is going to be in the fact that it's Aniyo, he said, that we see that it's Hashem's koyach that's creating the heaven and earth, may ayin liyesh, from nothing to something, in a way that usually is completely distant and removed and is up until now was not revealed within the character of the world itself. And now when Mashiach comes, it's going to be in the most revealed way. That means we're mamish going to be able to see in a revealed way in the heavens and in the earth, the koyach aliki, the godly energy that's creating the me'ayin liyesh, the koyach of atmos, of the essence of Hashem. Ani, that I, Hashem specifically, am the one making it. Or to put in the words of the Alter Rebbe, the very essence of Hashem, that He is the only one that could create something out of absolutely nothing. And therefore, the whole world will now be a place where Hashem can be expressed. A dira lo yizbarich, a place for Hashem, a dira for the very essence of Hashem, similar to the dwelling place of a person in which he could reveal himself with his whole essence, to the extent, says the Rebbe, that in certain times will be even without clothes, without garments. And similarly, la'asid lavoy, we say about Hashem that that He will no longer be hidden from us. What does the word yikanef mean? He won't be covered, but kana full of wush, meanings with clothes, with garments. Because Hashem's oir is going to be completely revealed, lost, and without any coverings. And as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, that this is what we had already, something similar to this already, at the time of Matan Torah, where it says, Ato hareisa lodas, that we were shown to see, Ki Hashem hu alikim ein oid milvadoi. And not only will this Gili Elikus be to Yidden, but from the remainder, from the extras, from the overflow, so to speak, of this tremendous Gili Elikus for the Yidden will also illuminate the darkness of the nations, and Hashem's glory will be revealed in the world, and all flesh will be able to see Elikus. Says the Rebbe in Sevav, Yesh Loimar, that this Chidush of Hashemayim HaChadoshim V'Aretz HaChadosh Asher Ani Yosa, compared to the renewal of the way the world is right now standing, which is at the time of Matan Torah, we said already gave a certain strength into the world. But the new Shemayim and Chadoshim is going to be in accordance and happening as a result of the Chidush Torah Me'iti Teitzei. In other words, as a result of the new Torah that's going to be revealed, also compared to the Zman of Matan Torah. And the Rebbe explains, at the time of Matan Torah, since the main part of Torah that's going to be revealed, Lasid Lavi, was still concealed, so therefore the revelation of godliness in the world, which we said before, as a result, that's what causes that the world should be able to last and exist, was in a way that the main part of it, the koyach of atzmos, through which the world was created, mi'ayin liyesh, was in the meantime still concealed. And therefore, yes, although it's true that by Matan Torah that decree, that separation between Elyonim and Tachtonim was nullified, and now the Elyonim, the spiritual, could come down to the Tachtonim, and the Tachtonim could go up to the Elyonim. Nevertheless, even after that connection between the upper and the lower realms, there was still two separate things. The Elyonim and Tachtonim still remained Elyonim and Tachtonim. That means this world still remained that lowliest world as far as where Elikus is revealed. Because that koyach of atzmos was still hidden. Whereas la'asid lavi, when it will be revealed, also that main part of Torah, the Torah chadosh me'iti teitzei, there's going to be also this is galus of Elikus in the world in the greatest, most perfect way, without any concealment. As the pasuk we quoted before, v'nigla k'vod Hashem v'roch obasar yachdim d'pi Hashem diber, Elikus is going to be revealed in this world. We'll be able to see in a revealed way that the whole reality of all flesh is only the koyach of the essence of Hashem of atzmos, and therefore there's no longer any difference between the upper and the lower, because they're really all one. The famous expression that the Metzius, the very existence of the Yesh HaNivra, of the created existence, is the Metzius of the Yesh HaAmiti, of the true existence, which is Hashem. Says the Rebbe, now we could come to understand what is the special Chiddush of the Shabbos after Matan Torah compared to the renewal of Torah that happens at the time of Matan Torah and the time of Shavuos. The Rebbe says, Ubahakdama, by first prefacing, even though in the hischachos of the giving of Torah Bizman Matan Torah of every single year, of course, includes also the idea of Chidush in Torah, of novelty, novel in Yonim within Torah, just like in Matan Torah the first time included all matters of Torah, both the Chidushim that are revealed, as we said, through the Talmud Vosik of all generations, as well as it also included the Chidush Torah that's going to be Me'iti Teitzei, the Torah of Mashiach. But more specifically, says the Rebbe, this idea of Chidush in Torah, of coming up with new ideas in Torah, is more emphasized the Shabbos after Matan Torah. Both in regards to the Chidushim that are Nesgala through the recipients of Torah, that means through Yidden, the Talmud Vosik, throughout the year, but also, and even more importantly, regarding the Chidush Torah Me'iti Teitzei that's going to be revealed through Hashem, the giver of the Torah, and as a result of that, also the Chidush in the world, we said, Hashemayim HaChadoshim V'Aretz HaChadosha, because since Achaka, and of course, that since Achaka B'chol Yom Sheyavoy, the time for that is all year round. The Rebbe says this is emphasized in the matters of Torah that we read, that we learn in the Shabbos after Matan Torah, both in regards to the Parsha Shavua, as we'll see soon, as well as also in the Pirkei Avos. So the Rebbe first starts with Parsha Shavua, Parsha Naso. So it's in Seif Ches. The Rebbe says the Parsha begins with Naso Yisroish. Roish, the head, refers to Limud HaTorah, learning Torah. Naso Yisroish, raising, lifting the Roish, means learning the Torah with a geschmack, with pleasure, with tainug, which is higher than just intellect. To the extent that we say, Ein l'mayla me'oinig, there is nothing higher than tainug, than pleasure. And this obviously adds a great deal to the learning of Torah itself, to the Roish. Naso Yisroish. Until we come to this idea of Chidush b'Torah. That's what it's all about. You come up with new Chidushim within Torah, v'oid v'ikar, says the Rebbe. More importantly, the shleimus inyan of Hoysaf, of adding a Chiddush b'Torah, the real Naso Yisroish, is la'asid lave, when we have the Torah Chadashim Iti Teitzei, the secrets of the Torah being revealed, which is this idea of the Tainug of Torah, Naso Yisroish, in other words, being lifted up to this level of Tainug within Torah itself. Says the Rebbe v'yesh lo'isef, to add another point. Even though the pasuk goes on and says Naso Yisroish b'nei Gershon gamheim, which Gershon is part of Shevet Levi, so you might say all of this is only Shayach to Shevet Levi, but says the Rebbe, Asid Lave, when Mashiach comes, this will really apply to all Yidden. The Rambam paskins that not only Shevet Levi alone is holy, but every single Yid that his spirit is generous and that he wants to really connect to Hashem and wants to understand and remove himself from the rest of the world to be able to stand in front of Hashem to get to know Hashem, and wants to remove all the gashmiyas, the things that people are involved with. So every single Yid could come to this level of Kodesh Kadashim, of being holy like that. And La'asid Lave, says the Rebbe, that will in fact be the state of all the Yidden. As the Rambam paskins at the very end of his Sefer, that Ba'oisei Hazman when Mashiach will come, what will everyone be involved in? The whole world, certainly Bnei Yisrael, was going to be only Lodas as Hashem Bilvat, to know Hashem alone. And therefore, as the Rambam says, Yidden will be Chachamim G'dolim, knowing all of the hidden things, being able to understand the knowledge of their Creator. Says the Rebbe, this idea is emphasized in Parshas Nazir, in the section of Nazir, which is in Parshas Naso. In regards to the dinim of the Nazirus, here we have clearly emphasized the concept that we await Mashiach's coming every single day, but we see this in Halacha, because if a person says, I'm going to become a Nazir, on the day the Mashiach comes, the day Ben David comes, he's already usher immediately that very day. Forever, because every single day is the day that we need to consider the Yom Sheben David Baboy, the day that Mashiach is coming. In the present tense, Hine Zeh HaMelech HaMashiach Ba, that mamish right now Mashiach is coming. From this we understand, says the Rebbe, that also this idea of Torah Chadashim Iti Teitzei, which is, as we explained, the Naso Yisroish, the ultimate lifting of the head. After, as we said before, it comes. The Rebbe is connecting this to the idea of Nazir. On the one hand, there's the idea that we're separating from the world, but now we're lifting ourselves up to be able to connect to this level of Torah, but it's not only in a way of Asid only in the future, Teitzei in the future, but rather it's part of the Hoiva, part of the present, to the extent that we could say already Torah Chadashim Iti Yoitz, that it's coming out right now from Hashem. And in the next moment, it's already in the past that we can say already Torah Chadashim Iti Yotza, that a Torah has already come out from Hashem. So this is all in regards to Torah, says the Rebbe. And similarly, also in the Chidush, in the newness, in the novelty in the world, we said Hashemayim HaChadoshim V'Ha'aretz HaChadoshim, the new heaven and the new earth that Hashem makes, that comes as a result of the Chidush, of Torah Chadashim Iti Teitzei, coming from the Naso Yisroish, when that's B'tachos HaShleimus. So then we have the new heaven and the new earth also in the most perfect way. Says the Rebbe, this too is hinted in Parshas Naso. In the beginning of the Parsha, it speaks about the counting of Bnei Gershon and Bnei Merari, to see how many are already at that age that they could do the work. La avoidu l'maso, avoidas maso, in other words, carrying the parts of the Mishkan and so on, carrying the Yeriyos, the Kroshim, when they're traveling in the Midbar. At the end of the Parsha, we have about the Shleimus, the perfection of the Mishkan itself, as it says, when Moshe finally finished setting up the whole Mishkan. Then we come to the Chanukas HaMizbeach at the end of the Parsha, the dedication of the Mizbeach. Zois Chanukas HaMizbeach b'yoyim himashachosoi, and another pasuk, Zois Chanukas HaMizbeach acharei himashachosoi. Says the Rebbe, what's the connection between Chanukas HaMishkan, dedicating the Mishkan, carrying the Mishkan, as they're traveling through the desert to Parshas Naso? Says the Rebbe, this is similar to the whole concept of the fact that the Torah is given in the Midbar specifically. What is the Midbar? The Midbar is a place, as the pasuk describes, Eretz Asher Lo Yashav Adam Sham. It's a place that's not inhabited by people. What's the purpose? So that we take even from a Midbar, from a desert, something that's the lowest of the low, and it should become a place for Hashem, a dira for Hashem. Similarly over here, the idea of Naso Yisroish, which we explained means the shleimus of Torah, but it has to permeate, and it does permeate into the world as well, which is the whole idea of the Mishkan, making the Mishkan after in continuation to Matan Torah, so that the Gili of Matan Torah penetrates and comes into the world itself. Says that, but this will all be B'tachas HaShleimus Lasid Lavoi, in the Chanukas Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, the Beis HaMikdash that Hashem himself makes. and then it's going to be revealed. As it says, that Hashem says, every place where I give you permission to mention my name, that's where I come and bench you. And that is, as it says, in the end of at the end of Kriyas Aseres Hadibris, of Zman Matan Torah. So this comes in the whole world, in every single place. That means that the Shleimus of the Beis HaMikdash, this is the place where we have the Kohanim have the permission to be able to mention the Shem HaMeforesh B'Nesias Kapayim when they duchen. And again, something connected to our parsha, but some with Shmi, that the Yidden, the Kohanim bench the Yidden with the Shem HaMeforesh. But this is all going to penetrate, this is going to come into the whole world, as it says, by Yoimahu Yiyah Hashem Echad U'Shmoi Echad, that just like Hashem is written, just like the name of Hashem is written, so too Hashem will be called, because the whole world will be a Dir Lo Yizbarech, similar to the Mishkan and the Mikdash. Says the Rebbe, this general idea of the Dir Lo Yizbarech B'Tachtonim, that the world is becoming a dwelling place for the very essence of Hashem, through the Izgalus of the Koyach HaAtzmos, that's creating the world, Me'ayil Yesh. This is the exact point that we were speaking about Hashemayim HaChadoshim, the new heaven, the new earth, Asher Ani Yoiseh, that Hashem himself makes, because again, the main chiddush over here is going to be that Ani Yoiseh, that it's coming from the essence of Hashem. Says the Rebbe in Sif Yud V'Yesh Lo Yosef, that in Parshas Naso, it also gives us the way of Avodah through which we come to this chiddush of Torah Chadoshim Iti Teitzei, and as a result of that also the Shamayim Chadoshim V'Aretz HaChadoshah in the times of Mashiach. Says the Rebbe behektim by first, that which is known, that in every single year there's a spark of the neshama of Mashiach. This is hinted in the pasuk Dorach Koichav Miyaakov, a star steps out of Yaakov. So on the one hand it refers to David Malchus Mashiach, but it also refers to each and every yid. Why? Because every single yid has a spark of Mashiach inside him. That's the Yechidah, the deepest level of the neshama that every single yid has, and this is a spark of the general Yechidah, which is the neshama of Mashiach Tzidkenu. So when a yid reveals his Yechidah, this is the way we hasten, we bring closer, and we bring about the Gili of the general Yechidah, B'vias Mashiach Tzidkenu, which then is going to be the Torah Chadoshim Iti Teitzei, the Pnimiyus HaTorah, the Yechidah within Torah itself. And so too, as we said, based on that, there's going to be Hashemayim HaChadoshah, the new heaven, the new earth, that Hashem himself makes, the Gili of the Yechidah in the whole world, the Yechidah Shaloilam. How is this all connected to Parshas Naso? He says, the Rebbe, this is hinted both in the beginning and the end of Parshas Naso. In the beginning of Parshas Naso, we have the counting of Naso as Rosh B'nei Gershon Gameim, which is connected also to the idea of the counting of all the Yidden. As we said, all the Yidden are, in a certain sense, on the level of Shevet Levi, as we mentioned before from the Rambam, that not only Shevet Levi, but every Yid that wants to be holy and connected to Hashem in that way. So what's this idea of counting the Yidden? Counting the Yidden is this concept of the connection, the essential bond that every Yid has with Hashem. As we are told, it's because of Hashem's love to the Yidden that he keeps on counting them. And this idea, this Hashem's love to every Yid, is in a way that it's equal by every single Yid. The greatest of the great is not counted in any way more than the smallest of the small. And why is that? That's because of the Etzem HaNeshama, the Yechidah, that's equal by every single Yid. That's the beginning of the Parsha. In the end of the Parsha, we have the unity of all 12 Nesiei Yisrael, which include, of course, all Bnei Yisrael. They're all donating, coming together to give for the dedication of the Mishkan and the Mizbeach. And even after Hashem says that every Nasi should bring a korban on his designated day, nevertheless, as Rashi brings, the Torah counts it as if they all brought on the first day and as if they all also brought on the last day, meaning there's a certain achdus over here. The ultimate greatest achdus, because of the Etzem HaNeshama, they're all together. This is the Yechidah that's equal by all Yidden together. Says the Rebbe V'Yesh Lo Yosef to add, this is also hinted in the beginning of Parshas Ba'al Loischa that we read in the Mincha of the Shabbos. Ba'al Loischa is HaNeiros, when you will light the candles of Mulpnei HaMa'orah facing the menorah, the middle branch, all the 7 candles burn. And then it says, this is the way the menorah is made. Mikshazov, all have one piece of gold from the Yerecha, at Pircha, from the base till its flowers. It's all miksha, it's all one piece of gold. And what does this mean? That even though the Bnei Yisrael are divided generally into 7 categories, 7 levels in Avodas Hashem, the 7 branches of the menorah, yet they are all united. They're all shining al mulpnei menorah. They're all shining in the same direction. And they're all one piece of gold, one block of gold, menorah zav kula, As said, this is the real achdus of Bnei Yisrael, which is a result of what? A result of the etzem hanashama of the Yechidah. Furthermore, says the Rebbe, in continuation and following the parshas of the fact that the parshas Manoida follows the parshas Nasim, this also here we see the emphasis on the mile of Shevet Levi on the 12 Shvatim, as Rashi says. That why is the parsha of the Manoida coming right after the parsha of the Nasim? Because when Aaron saw that what the Nesiim brought, so he felt bad that he wasn't part of this dedication of the Mizbeach, not him, not his Shevet. So Hashem says to him, I swear to you that what you're going to do is even greater than this. You're going to be lighting and preparing the menorah. So that's on the one hand. But on the other hand, says the Rebbe, together with that, since it's coming connected with the parsha of the Nesiim, obviously it's showing that there's a connection between them. So how do these two things go together? Is it greater than them? Was it part of them? So the Rebbe says, because the mile of Shevet Levi actually comes down and permeates each and every Yid, as the Rambam Paskins, as we mentioned before, that not only Shevet Levi Bilvad, but every single Yid could be connected to Hashem in the same way like the Kohanim and the Levim. Says the Rebbe, this all happens by revealing the Yechidah, as hinted in the end of those words of the Rambam, where the Rambam says that David, all of Shalom says, Hashem, Hashem, you're my portion, you support my lot. What's the idea of a goydel, a lot? A lottery. This refers to the etzem hanashama, to the level of Yechidah, which is also the level of David. Malchus Mashiach, because the idea of a lottery means higher than Seichel. And through revealing it by each and every Yid, that every single Yid is on the level of Shevet Levi, like a Kohen, and even the level of the Kedusha of the Kohen Gadol, as we said from the Rambam, that the person becomes at the level of Kodesh HaKadoshim. This is revealing that Yechidah in the Yid, on the level of Nefesh by the people, just like they have the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is like the Yechidah within space. Says the Rebbe, with this we can explain in a deeper way the emphasis of the Achdus of Yidden that we find specifically by Matan Torah. We know that by Chodesh HaShlishi, by Yom HaZeh Bo Midbar Sinai, and then it says, Vayichan Shem Yisrael, the Yidden camped over there in Loshen Yachid. We are told it means Ki'ish Echad B'Leiv Echad, and that's why Hashem says now is the time to give them the Torah because of this Achdus. Says the Rebbe, because this Achdus that comes from Yechidah is specifically connected with the idea of the Torah of Mashiach, of Pnimiyas HaTorah, the Yechidah, which was given already in a hidden way at the time of Matan Torah. Says the Rebbe V'yesh Loimar, that this is specifically emphasized on the Shabbos after Matan Torah, where we have this Achdus of the Yidden coming from the Yechidah, which, as we said, is emphasized in the Parsha Shavua, as we just explained at length. And therefore, this is the Hachana for the Hisgalus of the Torah of Mashiach. In addition to that which is the Gilui of Matan Torah. In other words, it's in addition, and after the Gilui of Matan Torah, that's the point that it's the Shabbos after Matan Torah. So we have, in addition to Matan Torah, we also have this Shabbos, which represents the Torah Chadasha Me'iti Teitzei. Says the Rebbe in Yud Aleph, in addition to this idea of the Torah Chadasha Me'iti Teitzei being emphasized and hinted in the Parsha Shavua, that we read the Shabbos after Matan Torah, we see this also in the Pirkei Avos in the Shabbos after Matan Torah. In the explanation of what's the idea of saying and learning Moshe Kibbul Torah Messina the Shabbos after Matan Torah, after we have already received the Torah in the time of Matan Torah, says the Rebbe, we could explain that the main emphasis over here is on the idea of Haisafa, of Chidush, of addition, of something new in Torah through the Makabei Torah, through the recipients of Torah, through the Yidden. As emphasized in the diuk of the Lashon Moshe Kibbul Torah Messina Umusara. In other words, there's one thing that Hashem gave us the Torah, but now there's the idea that the Torah is becoming each and every one of every single Yid, by a Yid learning the Torah and being Mechadish in the Torah. For Oid V'ikar, and more importantly, the Isaf and the Chidush, through the Nois and HaTorah La'asid Lavid, the Torah Chadashim Iti Teitzei, as this is emphasized, first of all in the introduction. Before we say Moshe Kibbul Torah Misinai, we speak about the idea that Kol Yisrael Yesh Lem Chelek Lo'olam Haba, which refers to the time of Tchiyas HaMesim, which this tells us that the main emphasis over here of Matan Torah is about the Torah of La'asid Lavi, that's going to be when Mashiach comes, Torah Chadashim Iti Teitzei. And so too, when we finish after the Perek, we say Ratzak HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lezakas Is Yisrael Lefichach Hirbelem Torah Mitzvahs Shenemer Hashem Chavetz Lan Tzidkei Yagdil Torah V'Yadir. What's this idea of Yagdil Torah V'Yadir? The Torah will be greater and stronger, etc. So what this means is it's when we're learning Torah, not only to know what we need to do, but in a way of just learning, just and getting reward just for the learning, in other words, not even for what's going to come out of it. This is like the idea of the Torah Chadashim Iti Teitze, the new novel ideas that are going to come out within Torah itself. Says the Rebbe, since the learning of Torah, Moshe Kibbul Torah Misinai, is done in a way of Torah Chadashim Iti Teitze, so therefore it also impacts the world, how the world stands, and that's why we continue about Ha'olam Oimer, the three things that the world stands on, and Ha'olam Kayim, because it now has that new chidush, that new novelty of Hashamayim HaChadoshim, V'ha'aretz HaChadosh Asher Ani Yosa. Says the Rebbe, also the Achdus of Yidden, that comes from the Yechidah, which is again the Mashiach, that causes the chidush in Torah, and Shamayim V'aretz, is also emphasized in the introduction and the ending of saying Pirkei Avos. In Kol Yisrael Yesh Lehem Chelek Lo'olam Haba, Shene'emer V'amech Kulam Tzadikim. So this is again Achdus of Yidden. We're saying something that's equal by all Yidden because of the Etzem HaNashama of the Yechidah, as well as in the statement by the end of Rabbi Chananya, where we speak about Yagdol Torah V'Yadir. What's Yagdol Torah V'Yadir? So we said before, there's the idea of learning Torah just for the reward, or just, in other words, not even for the practical outcome of it, just learning Torah for the sake of Torah. But Yagdol Torah V'Yadir has another thing that we learn out of it as well. And this is referring to there's a halacha that even if there's a teacher teaching already, you could hire another teacher, you could get another teacher, you could open a school, one teacher could open right next to the other, and that other children should come. And why is that? Because of Yagdol Torah V'Yadir. Let there be an increase of Torah. So what do we see over here? We have the Achdus over here in Yagdol Torah V'Yadir, from the highest level of learning Torah all the way down to little children learning Torah. Says the Rebbe in Sif Yud Beis, V'yesh L'hoisev, and to connect and explain more the connection of the Chidush Torah, the Torah Chadashim Iti Teitze, and Shamayim and Aretz, Shamayim HaChadashim V'Aretz HaChadasha, this idea that it's all connected to the Shabbos after Matan Torah, says the Rebbe, it's also connected with the general idea of Yom HaShabbos. We're saying that it's the Shabbos after Matan Torah. What's the idea of Shabbos? Says the Rebbe, so it says that the point of Shabbos is to establish in our hearts the emunah, in the fact that the Eibishter creates the world, because that Hashem created the world in 6 days and then rested on the 7th day, etc. In other words, that by us resting from the inyanim of the world and being involved in inyanim of Kedusha, specifically in Limud HaTorah, which is connected specifically to Shabbos, we know that everyone holds that the Torah was given on Shabbos. The Rebbe says that through the ischachos of the Torah b'yoyim HaShabbos, that itself causes a new ischachos in the world. As we said already, istakel bo'iraisa u'boral, Hashem looks into the Torah and through that creates the world. Says the Rebbe, based on what's known, that Shabbos is connected to Geula, as emphasized in the Shir Shal Yoyim, Mizmer Shir L'Yoyim HaShabbos. The Gemara explains this means. This is a Mizmer Shir, this is a song for Yoyim Shekulei Shabbos u'Menucha L'Chayei Elamim. For the time the Mashiach is going to come, the day that's all Shabbos. And as we say in benching of Yom HaShabbos, Harach Moriyan Chilenu, L'Yoyim Shekulei Shabbos, the Eibishter should bring us to this time, that's the day of all Shabbos, the time of the Geula, u'Menucha L'Chayei Elamim, especially when we're standing at the time of Shabbos after Chatzois, after midday, the time of Mincha, which is called the Raiva Derivin, which means the deepest level of Rotzin and Tainug of Hashem's desire and pleasure, the very essence of Tainug, and at a time of Su'udah Shlishis, which, as the Gemara says, this is as a result of having the three Sudas, a person is given, a Yid is given Nachla Bli Mitzarim, an inheritance without any limitations, like Yaakov, that it says about him that the Eibishter promises him to spread out in all directions. And this is specifically connected to the third Geula, the third meal connected to the third Geula and the third Beis HaMikdash, like Yaakov. That it says that Yaakov called a place in the Beis HaMikdash Bayis. So the Rebbe says, Yeshloimer, if that's the case, that the Hischachos, the renewal of Torah and the world b'yoyim HaShabbos, on the day of Shabbos, is connected to the Chidush of Torah and in the world L'Asad Lavi, to the time of Yom Shekul Shabbos u'Menucha L'Chayei Elamim, Torah Chadashim Iti Teitze, the fact that the new Torah comes from Hashem, and the Hashamayim HaChadashim V'Aretz HaChadasha Asher Ani Yosa. Says the Rebbe, all of this is emphasized even more so. This is every Shabbos what we just said, but this is all true even more so in the Shabbos after Matan Torah. Because since in the time of Matan Torah that we had this week, there was already a renewal of the Torah and the world, so we must say that the day of Shabbos is emphasized mainly the hachana for the Chiddush, the way it's going to be L'Asad Lava, Torah Chadashim Iti Teitze, and Hashamayim HaChadashim V'Aretz HaChadasha. Says the Rebbe also the idea of Achdus Yisrael that we spoke about, that comes from the Yechidah, which is the level of Mashiach, through which we have that Chiddush of Torah and Shamayim and Aretz, is also emphasized specifically on Shabbos. Because we know on Shabbos we're supposed to be makil kehilos, gathering Yidden to get together in the Bate Knesses and the Bate Medrash to learn Torah barabim. And again, this is even more emphasized when we get together. Makil kehilos in the time of Mincha, in the time of Raiva Deraiv, and this is the time of the Panimius and the essence of Tainug. And similarly, in the person's nefesh, that's a level of Yechidah which is higher than the division of all the specific faculties of the nefesh, both the individual koiches, the koiches panimium, the inner koiches, and the more encompassing and surrounding koiches. And that's why it is the one that unites and it permeates and goes inside of each and every one of them, all the way down to the heel of the foot. And this also causes the achdus within all the Yidden, makil kilis, to gather all the Yidden, until the ultimate shleimus of all Bnei Yisrael. As the pasuk says, the Eibishter is going to gather each and every Yid. And Oida Kabetz Olav is going to gather and collect every single last Yid, in a way of they all becoming a kol gadol, one big congregation, and all together come into the main Beis HaKnesses, main Beis HaMedrash, which is the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, which is called the Beis Tefillah. So this is a place of Torah and Tefillah to learn the Torah Chadasha that's Me'iti Teitze, that's going to come out of Hashem himself. Says the Rebbe in Sif Yud Gimel, and all of this is added a special emphasis in the Shabbos of after Matan Torah, Shabbos Parshas Naso of this year. And the Rebbe explains, by first prefacing that which was discussed a number of times, that according to all of the signs and the words of Chazal regarding what's going to be at the end of days, in addition to the general notification at the time of the Gemara that Kolu Kol HaKitzon, that all the time frames and limits are up already. But based on all the signs, our generation is the last generation of Golus and the first generation of Gula. And as Kvoid Kedushas Moiri V'chami Admur Nasi Dereinu had testified in connection with this famous announcement of La'alta L'Tshuva, immediately we do Tshuva, immediately the Gula comes. That already back in his days, tens of years ago, all the matters of Avodah were completed, and all we need to do is polish the buttons and stand ready and prepared L'Kabbalas Pnei Mashiach Tzidkeinu. Says the Rebbe, how much more so after so much Avodah was done in spreading Torah, Yiddishkeit, and spreading Chassidus to the outside from back then till now, including also the Shleimus of 40 years since the Histalkus of the Frierdiker Rebbe, where we say that Koi Inishadaita the Rabbi, after 40 years you can finally understand the das of your Rebbe, as the pasuk says, Leiv lo das, you have the heart to understand, the eyes to see, the ears to hear. So by now, certainly, we already finished polishing the buttons as well, and we're standing ready to greet Mashiach Tzidkeinu. Says the Rebbe, this is even all more emphasized in this particular year, the year of Hey Tinasei. Tavshin and Aleph is Tinasei, which its siman is hinted in the pasuk Tinasei Malchusei, as Malchus will be raised, which is referring to David and Shlomo, that Melech HaMashiach comes from them. So his Melucha is raised in the whole world, and that the Rosh Tevis is Hoyati Yeshnas Arenu Nifloi, seeing great miracles, as the pasuk says, Kimeitzeis Chamei Eretz Mitzrayim. When Mashiach comes, we're going to see great. Hashem is going to show us miracles similar to the time of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Says that it was starting from the miracles that we already saw, in addition to the ones that we will see in the future, Arenu, we saw already clearly B'poil, practically, in a revealed way in front of the eyes of all the nations this year, in which it's been fulfilled already the words of the Yalkut Shemaini, that Shana Shemelech HaMashiach Niglaboy, the year that Mashiach is revealed in it. All of the nations are fighting with each other, arguing, and having wars with each other. The Persian king and the Arab king, etc. The Eibishter says to the Yidden, Bonai, my children, Al Tisyaru, don't be afraid. Kol Masha Sisi, whatever I did, I only did for you. Higi Azman Giulaschem, the time of Yigula has arrived. Says the Rebbe, and since then, and especially from Chodesh Nisan, Chodesh Agula, we're standing already in the time, B'shah Shemelech HaMashiach, by the time the Mashiach comes, Hine Zebah, and he notifies the Yidden and he says to them, Anavim, humble ones, the time of your redemption has arrived. Says the Rebbe, especially standing at the time of Matan Torah and Yimei Tashlumin. As it says in Sfarim, the Remez and the Maimer Azal, that says, HaKoil Moedim, everyone agrees, the Gemara says, Ba'atzeres, regarding Shavuos, the Bo'ina Nami Lochem, you also have to have Lochem, which literally means you have to have also a Gashmi, is the Kesuda. But it says in Sfarim, that Atzeres Shavuos is a specific time, a Suratzoin, to daven to bring the Geula closer. How is that in the words? HaKoil Moedim, everyone agrees that Ba'atzeres, Ba'inon could also be a lotion of asking a request, Tefillah and Bakasha. We could be asking for Nami Lochem, which the words Nami Lochem is Begematria Kates, the end of Golos. In other words, this is an opportune time to daven that it should already be closed, the Kates and Geula. the time of the Geula, Keitz HaYomim, Keitz HaYomin, and standing in the Shabbos after this Keitz Atzeres, in Shabbos Parshas Naso. Naso, which is Rosh Tevis, as we said, Shnas Aren and Flois. In the year Tinose, so this is the most opportune time for the Chidush of Torah Chadasha Me'iti Teitze, and Hashamayim HaKadosh V'Aretz HaKadosh Asher Ani Oiseh, not only in the future, but in the present tense, and so much so that in the next moment it could already be in the past tense, because he nezeba, that behold here Mashiach is coming, and a moment later it's already ukvarba that he's already come. Says the Rebbe. And an extra emphasis in all of this is the fact that we have now the special Farbrengen, which is in a very unusual time, in a very unusual way, of many Yidden getting together in the time of Raiva Deraivan, which is specifically connected to the Geula Amitis V'Ashleima, as mentioned before, and in a way of a Su'uda Mamish, with Birchas HaMazon. And we know that we bench even if we're not totally satisfied. The pasuk says v'achalta v'savata, but the Chacham say that we bench even on a smaller amount, and we bench with a kois shel bracha, which is connected to the geula hamitis v'ashleima through Mashiach Tzidkeinu, as we find in the Gemara regarding the kois shel bracha at the end of the Seudah of Lasid Lavoi, where the Gemara says that first they're going to give the kois shel bracha to Avraham Avinu to bench, and he's going to say, I can't bench. And they pass it around until finally it comes to David HaMelech, and they say to him to bench, and he says, yes, I will bench. It's appropriate that I should bench, as the pasuk says, Kois Yeshuais Esa uv'Shem Hashem Ekra. And it says further, there's this Kois of David HaMelech, Lasid Lavoi, is going to hold 221 lug, which is the gematria of Revoya. Koisi Revoya, that's the gematria of this word. Says the Rebbe further, V'hamaisu ha'ikar. Since this Shabbos, the Shabbos after Matan Torah Parshas Naso of the year Aren and the Flois, is the most opportune time for the Hisgalus of Torah Chadasha Me'iti Teitze. It's understood that the Hayra L'maisa B'Poila Hazman Grama is preparing somewhat similar Me'ain, and brings practically the fulfillment of this promise of Torah Chadasha Me'iti Teitze. So simply this means a whole renewal and addition in learning Torah with a chayis, with a geschmack, with enjoyment, to the extent of coming up with chidushim in Torah. And this is both regarding ourselves as well as influencing other people as well. As the Mishnah says, ha'amidu talmidim harbe, because as it's known that every single Yid has the ability to reveal the secrets of Chochmah and to come up with new chidushim in Torah, both in the area of Agoda and the area of Nigla and Nister, all according to his neshama. And he's obligated to do this. The Rebbe is quoting from Tanya over here, including also a whole renewal and addition in learning and spreading Chassidus, which is in Pnimis HaTorah, which was revealed through Chassidus, similar to the taste of the Torah of Mashiach Te'ameh Chaim Zachu. And that's why through this we specifically hasten and we bring about the Bias David Malka Mashiach. Says the Rebbe Kedai v'Nochin that it would be very, very appropriate that every single person should accept upon himself saying Pirkei Avos Milad Chasidusa. In addition to just saying the Pirkei Avos every Shabbos of the summer months, should also add and learn one Mishnah at least, Be'iyun, with the Pirushim of the Mefarshei Mishnah, each person according to his own level. And the Rebbe says, V'hi Ratzoin, that by speaking and accepting Achlotas Toivus and all of the above, we should come immediately to the Hisgalus of Torah Chadash Me'iti Teitze, B'geula Amitis V'Ashleima through Mashiach Tzidkeinu, and Moshe is the one that kibbutz Torah Mesinai, together with Aaron, which is going to light them and Noir in the Beis HaMikdash, together with them, and the Baal Shem Tov and all of Rabbi Seinu Nesienu, till Kvoit Kedushas Meiri V'chami Admor along with them, together with all the Tzaddikim and all the Nesiyei Yisrael, and all of the Yidden, V'amich Kulam Tzaddikim of the previous generations, and Akitzu V'dan and Shech Ne'afar, they're all going to get up, together with all the Bnei Yisrael of this generation, the Shammais Begufim, without any sort of interruption in the middle, and all together they hear the Torah Chadasha Sheme'iti Teitze, the Torah Chadasha that comes from Hashem Himself, B'Artzeinu HaKadosh, B'Yerushalayim HaKodesh, B'Har HaKodesh, B'Beis HaMikdash, B'Kodesh HaKadoshim, from above the Kapoiris, which is on the Orein HaEdus, between the two Kruvim, V'Oid V'Hu HaIker, take it from Miyad, immediately, and the word Miyad is Rashi Tevis of Moshe, Yisrael, which is the Baal Shem Tov, which when Chassidus is going to, this wellsprings of the Baal Shem Tov are going to be spread, that's when Mashiach comes. The Dalit for David Malka Mashiach, Ukapshutei Mamish, in a way of Mamash that you can actually physically, literally touch it, Lamata Me'asara Tfachim, the Rebbe says, Mamish. Just to point out that in this Farbrengen, the Rebbe also requested that all of the nigunim of the Rabbeim be sung. So we have over here in Ha'ara 150, where the Rebbe was speaking about earlier on about the special farbrengen that was going on with the Birchas HaMazon and so on and so forth. So in Ha'ara 150, the Rebbe says, after first singing the nigunim of Rabbi Seinu Nisienu, the Nisim of Toiras Achsidis, that through spreading Chassidus, that's when Mashiach comes. And the Rebbe goes through the Rabbeim, starting from the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid, and the Alter Rebbe, the Mittel Rebbe, and the Tzemach Tzedek. And on this, immediately, there's a footnote regarding the Tzemach Tzedek, that both of his names is the Gematria of Menachem Mendel, which, so both of these names, Tzemach and Tzedek, which is Gematria Menachem Mendel, are both names of Mashiach. And the Rebbe goes on and speaks about the singing the Nigunim of, again, of the Rebbe Maharash, the Rebbe Rashab, and Kvoit Kedushas Moire V'chami Admuna Sidireinu. Again, the Rebbe points out in the footnote how both of the names of the Frierdiker Rebbe are also associated with the Geula. And then the Rebbe says, again, this is all in Ha'ara 150, how over here we have 9 Nigunim. In a moment we'll see how it's 9 Nigunim, with which we finish the Golos, and all of this leads us to the 10th Nigun, the Shiro HaSiris of Melech HaMashiach. In the bottom, the Rebbe explains why 9 Nigunim. So we have the 6 Nigunim of the Rabbeim. This is going from the Alter Rebbe to the Frierdiker Rebbe. And then we have the Sholosh Tenuos, which is a Nigun that includes the Baal Shem Tov, the Mezritcher Maggid, and the Alter Rebbe. So therefore, in a certain sense, it's connected. It's like 3 Nigunim. So therefore, altogether, it's a total of 9 Nigunim, and then from that we come to the 10th Nigun, which is the Nigun of Melech HaMashiach.